see the introduction. We'll see the pathway of peritoneal fluid transport, mechanism and causes of the ultrafiltration failure, and we'll see ultrafiltration failure is a common and important complication of the peritoneal dialysis, and especially in the chronic patient without residual urine production, it often causes the fluid overload. Ultrafiltration failure during the dialysis is commonly used term for the situation, and where the net ultrafiltration is less than expected in the PD population. Glucose concentration of the dialysis solution is a very important determinant for the net ultrafiltration by osmosis, and normal value are related to the glucose concentration of the dialysate. The International Society of the Peritoneal Dialysis published a guideline for the ultrafiltration failure in 2000, and there is a 3 by 4 rule, and it states that ultrafiltration failure is present when the net ultrafiltration failure is less than 400 ml after the drainage of 4%, 3.86 or 4.25% dialysis solution with an intraperitoneal stay of 4 hours. Although patient with the ultrafiltration failure according to definition upper are hypervolemic, and overhydration is not included in the definition, because overhydration is not only depend on the fluid removal, also depends on the intake. Yet, overhydration is probably the most important cause for the cardiovascular death in a peritoneal dialysis patient. The vast majority of the patient of the failure is hypervolemic. So, knowledge of the mechanism of the failure, presence, development, diagnosis, treatment, and its prevention are very important to know. We will first see very quickly anatomy and physiology of the peritoneal membrane. It is a serosal layer. Body surface area is 1 to 2 meters square in the adult. There are visceral layer and parietal layer. Visceral layer cover the gust. Blood supply for it is superior mesenteric artery, venous drainage is portal vein, and parietal peritoneum is covers the abdominal wall and receive the blood from the lumbar intercostal epigastric arteries, and venous drainage is in the IVC. The main lymphatic drainage of the peritoneum and of the peritoneal cavity is via stomata in diaphragmatic peritoneum, which ultimately drain into the large collecting duct and into the right lymphatic duct. So here I have shown the visceral peritoneum, we already know, and parietal peritoneum that covers the abdominal wall. So parietal membrane has a histology of the 6 layer, and we call it 6 layer of the resistant because molecule has to pass to the peritoneal cavity to the capillary fluid. So basically here we have mesothelial cell monolayer, then interstitium, and then peritoneal vasculature. There are 6 layers. First, this is the capillary fluid sheet and capillary endothelium, and it covers the capillary basement membrane. Here is the interstitium, and above it is the mesothelial cell layer, and here is the peritoneal fluid sheet. So any molecular has to pass from the peritoneal cavity to the capillaries and passes through these 6 layers. So there are basically two models, three-podal and distributed. Three-pore model and distribution model has been prescribed for this. So there are 3 types of the pore. First is the transcellular pore or ultra small pore. The radius is less than 0.8 nanometer. It covers the water. This is the peritoneal membrane, and here is the blood supply. So it shows the peritoneal capillaries, and here is the peritoneal cavity. Small pore radius is 4 to 6 nanometer, and large pore radius is more than 20 nanometer. So from the transcellular pore, water molecules will be passing through the aquaporin 1 channel, and from the small pores, solids like urea, create, sodium, potassium, including water, will be passing through the membrane, and large pore like micromolecules like protein will be transporting. This is a distributed model and effective peritoneal surface area. Here, what does mean? Now, this is the peritoneal fluid, and this is mesothelium. This dotted line, and here is the capillary bed. Capillary bed means there is a peritoneal capillaries, the rounded dotted areas. The more capillary peritoneal capillary is nearer to the peritoneal membrane, the more effective peritoneal dialysis will be there. The more dialysate molecules will be passing from the peritoneal cavity to the capillaries. It is called effective peritoneal surface area because with the same peritoneal surface, two different patients with the same peritoneal surface area, the peritoneal effectiveness will be different. It is because all the peritoneal capillaries will be distributed differently in the peritoneum in a different person. So there are three basic physiology for the peritoneal transport: diffusion, ultrafiltration, and fluid absorption. First, we will see the diffusion. We already know what diffusion is. Diffusion in the high concentration gradient will be transported to the low concentration gradient. In this first figure, the high concentration molecules, and this is the filter. So it will be passes through the filter to the lower concentration area, and there will be establishment of the equilibrium. So same happening into the our body. There is a peritoneal membrane, and this is a peritoneal fluid. So from the peritoneal fluid, glucose, lactate, or bicarbonate will be passed through the peritoneal membrane and reach to the capillary blood. And from the capillary blood, urea, potassiums will be passing towards the peritoneal fluid. So peritoneal diffusion depends following factors. First is the concentration gradient, which will be increased by the frequent change or the dwell volume. The effective peritoneal surface area, larger the volume, it will cover the more area. The third one is the intrinsic peritoneal membrane resistance, the distance between the capillaries and the mesothelium. This suggestive of the that distribution model, that capillary is more nearer to the mesothelium, the more effectiveness of the peritoneum transportation. Molecular weight of the solute, substance with a lower molecular weight like urea are more rapidly transported by the diffusion than those with the high molecular weight like creatinine and uric acid. Now let's see the mass transfer area coefficient called MTEC. It is a combined effects of the factor of above are sometimes measured by index. It is called MTEC, and which is analog to the K0A of the hemodialysis membrane. For given solute, MTEC is equivalent to the diffusive clearance of that solute per unit time in a theoretical situation in which diacylate flow is infinitely high, so that solute gradient is always maximum. And this is for the research purpose only. Peritoneal blood flow. Diffusion generally does not depend on the peritoneal blood flow. Yeah, affected only during the vasoactive substance or inflammation. So let's see the filtration. Here I have shown the interstitium, and there is a peritoneal capillary wall with system of the different pores. We have talked about three different pores. This is the diacylate filled with the peritoneal cavity, and here is the osmolality is high. And in the blood, in a peritoneal capillaries, the osmolality is very low. Different molecules like urea, creatinine, macromolecules, glucose, it will be transported from the peritoneal cavity through the peritoneal membrane to the peritoneal capillaries. This osmotic gradient between dialysate solution and peritoneal cavity, uh, peritoneal capillary blood. It is mainly due to the glucose and following factor. The concentration gradient for the osmotic agent maximum at the beginning. It is effective peritoneal surface area. I have already talked about this. Hydraulic conductance of the peritoneal membrane. It differs between the patient and lightly reflect the density of the small pore and ultrapore in the peritoneal capillary. Reflection coefficient for the osmotic agent like glucose. It measures how effectively the osmotic agent diffuse out of the dialysis solution into the peritoneal capillary between 0 and 1. Lower the value, faster the osmotic gradient is lost and less sustained ultrafiltration is. Hydrostatic pressure gradient. Normally, the peritoneal capillary pressure is around 20 mmHg and is higher than the intraperitoneal pressure, which is around 7 mmHg, which should favor the fluid removed by ultrafiltration. Rise in a intraperitoneal pressure will decrease the ultrafiltration. Higher the dual volume, lesser the ultrafiltration. Oncotic pressure gradient. It acts to keep the fluid in the blood. So in hypoalbuminic state, the ultrafiltration will be more. Sieving, it depends on the density of the ultrapore of the peritoneal membrane. So differ with the person. Sieving coefficient for the various solutes differ and depends on the molecular weight and charge. The alternative osmotic gradient, osmotic agent is icodextrin. It's large molecule and oncotic agent with a high reflection coefficient. It remained at the constant level even during long duration trial. Now let's see the fluid absorption. It mainly occurs via lymphatics at the constant rate, reduce efficiency of the solute and peritoneal dialysis, passes to the from the parietal peritoneum to the tissue of the abdominal wall and to the local lymphatics. The absorption rate is 1 to 2 ml per minute. Now factor that affect the rate of the fluid absorption of the of a peritoneal duel. Here in the x-axis, this is the exchange volume according to the body weight ml per kg, and in the y-axis intra-abdominal pressure, centimeter of water. So in a standing position, the intra-abdominal pressure is more, so there will be more exchange of the volumes. In upright, it will be in the slightly lower, and supine has the lowest. So intraperitoneal hydrostatic pressure, the higher the pressure, it will increase the amount of the fluid absorption. And effectiveness of the lymphatics, it differ with the person to person. Clinical assessment and implication of the peritoneal transport. Now let's see what is the peritoneal equilibrium test. Use of MTEC and hydraulic conductance of the peritoneal membrane in a clinical practice is too complex. There are several steps to be followed to perform a peritoneal equilibrium test. There should be first 8 to 12 hours dwell descending the exchange and drain the preceding exchange as completely as possible over the 20 minutes. Infuse 2 liter of 2.5% dextrose diacylate over the 10 minutes. That will be considered as a time 0. We will take the sample of the dialysate of time 0, 120 minute and 240 minute. That is 0, 2 hour and 4 hour. In order to take sample, 200 ml of dialysate is drained into the bag. 10 ml is drawn for the testing and 190 ml is reinfused. A blood sample is taken at 120 minute, 2 hour. And dialysate is drained completely at 4 hour and the drain volume is now measured. Dialysate and serum urea, glucose and creatinine are measured. So we will for each dwell at 0, 2 hour and 4 hour, dialysate to plasma ratio, DP ratio of creatinine and urea are determined, and as is the ratio of the glucose at the drain time at 2 hour and 4 hour to initial dialysate glucose concentration that we will call D0. These results are plotted against the time and compared to the known standard curve. In right side, I have shown a standard curve. Here is the standard curve for the DD0 glucose, and the x-axis there is a 0, 2R and 4R, and on the y-axis there is a values. In same, there is a dialysate to plasma ratio of the creatinine that is called DP creatinine, and I have seen in the 4 categories. These patients has been classified into the 4 categories: high transporter, high and low average transporter, and low transporter. It measured both combined effect of ultrafiltration and diffusion. And uh, this classification is for the patient done on the patients, and after the this classified, we plot on these standard curves. It should be noted that there is a significant discordance between the categorization of the patient's transport type based upon whether the DP creatinine or D0 glucose is used. So here the 4 categories: low transporter, low average and high transporter, and high transporters. And this is mainly the DP creatinine. We'll see the 61% of the DP creatinine in low transporters. Transporter type, we have used the DP creatinine here. In a low average and high average, DP creatinine is 64%. Here is 57%, and in high transporter it is 61%. Study suggests that abbreviating the preceding exchange to 2 to 3 hours does not significantly influence the value of the DP create or DD0 glucose. Thus, the patient being treated with the APD do not have to change the treatment schedule on the day prior to the PET. A 4.25 dextrose PET is used to characterize the ultrafiltration capacity of the peritoneum, including aquaporin mediated water transport and solute transport. The 4.25% PET has the added advantage of directly assessing the adequacy of ultrafiltration. Now we'll see the characteristic of the high and low transporters. High transporter, they have large effective peritoneal surface area and high intrinsic membrane permeability, and loses their osmotic gradient for ultrafiltration because the diluted glucose diffuses into the blood through the highly permeable membrane. Low transporter, it have the slower and less complete equilibrium for the urea and creatinine and reflecting low membrane permeability and or small effective peritoneal surface area. So this is a table taken from the Sridhar. Test to evaluate peritoneal membrane function. Here there are 5 tests: peritoneal equilibrium test, dialysate adequacy and transport test, 24-hour test, standard peritoneal analysis, and personal dialysis capacity, and there is a FX. Now these parameters used to evaluate the solute removal function and to evaluate the fluid removal function. We will now go into the detail. Clinical implication of the transporter type. High transporter tend to dialyze well, but to ultrafiltrate very poorly. Where areas low transporters ultrafiltrate well, but dialyze very poorly. High transport do based on a short dwell, so that ultrafilter is maximized like APD, and low transporter based on a regimen based on a long duration, high volume dwell, so that diffusion is maximized. Now we will see the net fluid removal. It depends on the balance between peritoneal ultrafiltration and peritoneal fluid absorption, and hence by the following: maximizing the osmotic gradient, high tonicity dwell with 1.25% dextrose, short duration dwell like in APD, and higher dwell volumes. An osmotic agent with the higher reflection coefficient like icodextrin increase urine output with diuretics. Peritoneal clearance. Now, what is the peritoneal clearance? It is the volume of plasma cleared of that solute per unit time. So clearance is equal to quantity of a removed solute divided by the average plasma concentration over a period of time. And it can be increased by maximizing time on a peritoneal dialysis, like no dry time, maximizing concentration gradient, more frequent exchanges as in a APD, and larger dwell volume, maximizing effective peritoneal surface area like larger dwell volumes, and maximizing peritoneal fluid removal. So whenever there is a fluid overload occur in the peritoneal dialysis, it manifests as a generalized edema, pulmonary edema, and hypertension that ultimately lead to the left ventricular hypertrophy, and that is basically the cause of the technique failure. Now, how we will assess the fluid status? Body weight or dry weight for the peritoneal dialysis is that weight which gives a well-tolerated normotensive edema-free state. There are alternative methods like bioimpedance analysis, BNP determination, and ultrasonograph USG of IVC. Mechanism of the fluid overload. Any combination of inappropriate prescription, non-compliance, loss of residual renal function, mechanical problem in peritoneal membrane dysfunction lead to fluid overload. So these are the basic common causes of the fluid overload in the peritoneal dialysis patient. First is inappropriate bag selection, inappropriate prescription for a membrane transport status, long dextrose containing daytime or nocturnal dwell, failure to optimize APD regimen for the transport status, and failure to use icodextrin containing solution. Non-compliance with the PD prescription, non-compliance with the salt and water restriction. There is a loss of residual renal function. There is a mechanical failure like catheter malfunction, abdominal leak, poor blood glucose control, or peritoneal membrane dysfunction. So these are the various strategies to enhance the peritoneal clearance in a CAPD and automated peritoneal dialysis. Daytime exchanges should be increased, increase the dual volume, increase ultrafiltration. Nighttime exchange, increase the dual volume, increase the number of the exchange and nighttime exchange device, and increase the ultrafiltration like tonicity of the dialysate or alternative osmotic agent like icodextrin. So what are the benefits of the having residual renal function in a patient undergoing the PD? It has greater probability of survival, lower morbidity, lower the hospitalization rate, lower the rates of peritonitis and technique survival, cardiovascular, lower total body and extracellular water, better control of the blood pressure and lower the left ventricular mass index. Nutritional status, higher dietary nutrient intake will be required, higher serum albumin, better nutritional status. Anemia management with higher hemoglobin, divalent ion metabolism, better control of the serum phosphorus, lower the level of the circulating putative uremic toxin, low molecular weight like 1 microglobin and alkaline RNase 3, middle class molecules, advanced glycosylation and product like carboxymethyl lysine, and it has a better quality of life. Diagnosis of the peritoneal membrane dysfunction and ultrafiltration failure. Ultrafiltration failure is defined as a fluid overload in association with the ultrafiltration volume less than 400 ml in a modified PET test. Modified PET test uses 4.25% dialysate instead of the 2.5% PET. It should not be diagnosed in case of ultrafiltration volume more than 400 ml and catheter malfunction and leaks. It has to be ruled out. So whenever ultrafiltration is diagnosed, we have to review the solute transport characteristic and do the modified 4.25% PET test. So we will assess the peritoneal membrane function by ultrafiltration response. Drain volume is less than 400 ml in 4 hour. We will see whether is a low transporter, high transporter, or high average or low average transporter. In a low transporter, the DP create ratio is less than 0.5, and there is a generally disruption of the peritoneal surface. And in the high transporter, the DP ratio of the creatinine is more than 0.81, and inheritant high recent peritonitis or patient is on a chronic PD, or a high average or low average transporters are between more than 0.81 DP create to zero point 0.5, between 0.5 to 0.81, and there is a mechanical cause, enhance reabsorption aquaporin deficiency. So in a high transporter with ultrafiltration type 1, the dilysate dextrose concentration fall quickly after the infusion because of the rapid absorption. It result in a loss of concentration gradient that drive the fluid removal. Develop after 3 or more years, and causes includes like cumulative exposure of the membrane to high glucose load. It is a transiently in a patient with acute peritonitis. Low transporter with ultrafiltration type 2, it reduces the small solid clearance and reduce the fluid removal. It is less common and it reflects the decreased membrane surface area, and most often due to adhesion and scarring after severe peritonitis or other intra-abdominal complications. Ultrafiltration failure with transport in a normal range, usually high average and low average transporters, increases the lymphatic absorption of the peritoneal fluid is the cause in a some patient, and this is called type 3 ultrafiltration failure. It's seen in a patient with the aquaporin deficiency, and if the aquaporin mediated water transport is impaired, the initial fall in the dialysate sodium will not occur. So prevention and management of the fluid overload, we will there are general measures has to be taken, like sodium restriction, patient education on when to use higher strength glucose solution, frequent clinical assessment. We have to see the patients strictly, preserving residual renal function by AC inhibitor, ARB, or high dose diuretics. Have to correct the abdominal leaks and catheter malfunction, preservation of a peritoneal membrane function, and in a management of the ultrafiltration failure in a type 1, type 2, and type 3. So high transporter stresses, ultrafiltration failure type 1, we can use the icodextrin. It is useful in a long dwell. We can reach the peritoneum, that will increase the vascularity in the peritoneum and ultimately there is a effect effectiveness will be increased. Ultrafiltration failure with a low transporter status generally require the hemodialysis to patient. Ultrafiltration failure with the average transporter, there is no specific method to reduce the lymphatic absorption or to correct the impaired aquaphoric function. Now we will see the MCQs. MCQ 1. A 4-year-old boy is initiated on the CAPD for end-stage renal disease.
Yeah, Dr. Nisar, I'll carry on with the MCQs. Thank you so much.
Okay, ma'am.
Please go to the next after the 5 MCQs, the
Yes, ma'am.
6th let. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Nisar, for the wonderful presentation. I'll read out the first MCQ again. This is a 4-year-old boy who's initiated on CAPD for end-stage renal disease secondary to Clovers. Which of the following is false regarding the peritoneal equilibrium